Council, we are live.
Helps if you unmute. Good morning. I'd like to call the meeting to order and ask the clerk for a roll call.
Short read.
Present.
Councillor Dayu.
Present.
Councillor Barry.
Present.
Mayor Danielson.
Liz, you're on mute.
Present.
Present. Thank you. May I have a mover and a seconder for the approval of the agenda? Deputy Mayor Danielson and Councillor Dayu.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Danielson, second by Councillor Dayu. Be it resolved that the October 7th, 2021 council meeting agenda be approved as circulated.
All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest today? Seeing none, I have no remarks to make. May I have a mover and a seconder for the adoption of the minutes of the previous meetings? Councillor Shortreed, Councillor Barry.
Moved by Councillor Shortreed, second by Councillor Barry. Be it resolved that the September 16th, 2021 regular council meeting minutes and the September 23rd and September 27th special meeting minutes be approved as circulated.
All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. May I have a mover and a seconder to move into the public meeting? Deputy Mayor Danielson, Councillor Shortreed.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Danielson, second by Councillor Shortreed. Be it resolved that council adjourns its regular meeting at 9:01 a.m. to proceed into a public meeting for the purposes of 1, zoning bylaw amendment application spanning AHZBA 721, part of lot 27, concession 4, geographic township of Stanhope, and 2, zoning bylaw amendment application Heist AHZBA 821, part of lot 3, concession 2, geographic township of Stanhope.
All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. We'll bring in Mr. O'Callaghan. And I'm afraid I forgot to ask if there were members of the public attending for either of these matters.
This second application, the agent is here to speak to it.
Thank you. Good morning, Sean.
Good morning.
If you would take us through the Hispanic file, please.
Certainly. So the subject lands are located on a private unnamed right-of-way that is accessed from Highway 118. It's currently zoned rural residential and designated rural under the official plan. The property is approximately 1.56 acres in area with 61.2 meters of frontage on the private right-of-way. Surrounding uses are generally rural residential, and the lands are currently vacant. The lands are zoned rural residential, and the applicant is proposing to construct a single family dwelling. However, section 4.12.1 of the zoning bylaw requires vacant lots to have frontage along an improved public street in order to be considered eligible for development. Because the subject lands are accessed via a privately maintained road, the zoning bylaw amendment is required. The zoning bylaw amendment will rezone the lands from rural residential to rural residential exception 14 in order to permit the development of a single family dwelling on a lot without frontage on an improved public street. Notice of the rezoning was posted on the property, circulated to all property owners within 120 meters of the subject lands, posted on the township website, and circulated to all prescribed agencies. No written objections have been received to date, and staff are recommending approval of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment.
Thank you for that. Are there any questions from council? No, and there's no one lurking in the wings to speak to it. So, okay, well, thank you for that. Can you take us through the Heist file?
Yes, this property is located on Oliver Road. It's zoned shoreline residential 1 and designated waterfront under the official plan. Council at its regular meeting on September 3rd, 2020, recommended approval of consent application H1521 for a lot addition, subject to several conditions, including that the applicants apply for a planning application, being a zoning bylaw amendment, to recognize deficient lot frontage on the retained property. The subject lands are approximately 1.05 acres in area with 30.7 meters of frontage on Cushog Lake. Surrounding uses are generally shoreline residential, and the lands are currently developed. An area of approximately 0.05 acres is proposed to be severed and added to the adjacent lands to the south. Both the retained and benefiting lands are currently developed with single-family dwellings. The retained and benefiting lands will continue to have frontage along Oliver Road as a result of the proposed lot addition. The subject zoning bylaw amendment application has been received in accordance with the above noted condition. It will rezone the proposed retained lands from Shoreline Residential 1 to Shoreline Residential 1 exception 33 in order to recognize a deficient lot frontage of 30.7 meters. Notice of the rezoning was advertised, posted on the property, circulated to all property owners within 120 meters of the subject lands, posted on the township website, and circulated to all prescribed agencies. No written objections have been received to date, and staff are recommending approval of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment.
Are there any questions or thoughts from council on moving this along? I would ask if the agent, I believe it's Mr. Bishop, if he has anything that he feels he needs to add to this situation. I'm not sure where he is. He's in there somewhere.
It's just a little slow.
Hi, everyone.
Is there anything that you feel you need to add? There's no questions and no objections.
Yeah, no, the only thing I wanted to add quickly is the addition is not along the water frontage. So the frontage along the lake between the two lots is not changing. So it's an addition only at the back is the only point I wanted to add beyond the application.
Yeah, thank you. We'd seen that when it came through the first time. So,
Sure.
All right, thank you for that. If there are no questions on either of the files, may I have a mover and a seconder to resume the regular meeting? Deputy Mayor Danielson, Councillor Barry.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Danielson, second by Councillor Barry. Be it resolved that council adjourns the public meeting at 9:07 a.m. and its regular meeting resumed.
All in favor? That's carried. May I have a mover and a seconder to receive the report on the Spanic file? Deputy Mayor Danielson, Councillor Shortreed.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Danielson, second by Councillor Shortreed. Be it resolved that council received report PL 9421 regarding the rezoning of lands located at part of lot 27, concession 4, geographic township of Stanhope, submitted by Sean O'Callaghan and dated October 7th, 2021, and the council directs a bylaw be brought forward for further consideration.
All in favor? That's carried. May I have a mover and a seconder for that bylaw? Councillor Shortreed, Councillor Barry.
Moved by Councillor Shortreed, second by Councillor Barry. Be it resolved that bylaw 2021 one-way being a bylaw to rezone property located at part of lot 27, concession 4, geographic township of Stanhope, application AHZBA 721 Hispanic from the rural residential RR zone to the rural residential exception 14 RR-14 zone to permit the development of a single family dwelling on a lot without frontage on an improved public street be received and read a first time, considered read a second and third time, and finally passed with the corporate seal affixed.
All in favor? That is carried. May I have a mover and a seconder to receive the report on the Heist file? Councillor Dayu, Councillor Barry.
Moved by Councillor Dayu, second by Councillor Barry. Be it resolved that council received report PL 9521 regarding the rezoning of lands located at part of lot 3, concession 2, geographic township of Stanhope, submitted by Sean O'Callaghan and dated October 7th, 2021, and the council directs a bylaw be brought forward for further consideration.
All in favor? That's carried. And may I have a mover and a seconder for that bylaw? Councillor Shortreed, Councillor Dayu.
Councillor Shortreed, second by Councillor Dayu. Be resolved that bylaw 2021-19-109 being a bylaw to rezone property retained lands located at part of lot 3, concession 2, geographic township of Stanhope, application AHZBA 821 Heist from shoreline residential SR1 zone to shoreline residential 1 exception 33 SR1-33 zone to recognize deficient lot frontage of 30.7 meters being received and read first time, considered read a second and third time, and finally passed with the corporate seal affixed.
All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Thank you, Sean. We'll see you again shortly
Thank you.
for what apparently is a planning day today. We are moving right down to number 11, Public Works business. So we'll bring in Mr. Bergstrom.
Morning, Mayor and Council.
Good morning, Lyle. First up for you is the collection, next step in collection services agreements. And Melissa,
Yes, Melissa will speak to this report.
Okay, great.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. And I do apologize. I'm gonna have to turn my back to you because my monitor is in the wrong place right now. So this report is similar to the report at the last council in regards to automotive materials stewardship. This is in regard to some of the other materials covered by the new regulation for hazardous materials. And we're just looking at options for service agreements, as all our current service agreements have expired as of October 1st. So as outlined in the report, there's 3 options to be considering at this time. And one is to sort of continue on business as usual, and that is to let Product Care Association know that we would intend to sign an agreement with them. They have not actually provided us with the agreement to date, but that should be coming shortly. They're just having some legal review and that sort of thing completed. So basically it's a message to them that yes, we likely would like to sign the agreement once we see it. Option 2 is not to sign an agreement with Product Care and to look at other options. There are certainly other options on the table, but because of the timing that this has come through, we don't have a lot of details on those yet, nor are they able to provide them to us. And then option 3 is to not continue to provide service to producers to collect those designated materials under the regulation. It's their obligation to collect those materials. It's not our obligation to provide collection services. And the recommendation is to sign again with PCA and sort of continue on for at least the short-term business as usual. That would cover our event coming up this weekend, and then we can have this conversation again if council directs, and we can certainly have another conversation about hazardous wastes in general, and that is on the agenda for our next meeting. I'm happy to answer any questions. And
Yeah, thank you. And I know we've had conversations about our collective skepticism about the success or viability of producer responsibility in rural areas. So I think it's important that we continue to do something while that continues to mature and unfold. Looking for thoughts from council on the report and the recommendation that's been made. Liz?
Nothing more than to say that I concur with the recommendation to continue as we are.
Okay, and if there's, Councillor Shortreed.
I was just going to say the exact same as Liz.
Okay, may I have a mover and a seconder to accept option number 1? Councillor Berry, Councillor Shortreed.
Second by Councillor Shortreed, be it resolved that council receives report PW 3921 regarding hazardous and special products collection services agreement submitted by Melissa Murray dated October 7, 2021, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign the agreement amendment with Product Care Association of Canada, with the final form and content being to the satisfaction of the operations manager and chief administrative officer.
All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Thank you for that, Melissa.
thank you, Mayor.
Next up for Public Works is the winter maintenance agreement.
Yeah, so this report is routine. We've been providing winter maintenance to a number of county roads for a very long time. This is just to renew the agreement for this upcoming season. Staff has proposed a 2% increase on the staff and equipment rates. The sand rate is whatever our cost is passed on to the county. So we're not making money, we're breaking even and providing a good service.
Any thoughts from council? If not, may I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Dayu, Councillor Barry.
Councillor Dayu, second by Councillor Barry, be it resolved that council receives report PW 4021 regarding the Halliburton County and Algonquin Highlands winter maintenance agreement submitted by Lyle Bergstrom dated October 7th, 2021, and that council approves the proposed winter maintenance agreement and directs a bylaw be brought forward to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute the said agreement.
All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thank you, Lyle.
Thank you.
Fire services business is next. We just have the one item, so we'll bring in the chief. Just as a note for council that the two items A and B are connected, so we'll just be having one discussion and there'll be one resolution to speak to them both, to receive and direct. Good morning, Chief.
Good morning, Mayor and Council.
If you could take us through, there's some correspondence about a burning complaint and the subsequent invoice that was issued, and your report that speaks to some differing information. So if you would take us through that, please.
Yes, definitely. A quick background: at 11:10 a.m. on September 2nd of last year, 2020, Algonquin Highlands Fire responded to a report of heavy smoke on the corner of Hewlett Road and Highway 118. We did make a full response. When we located the fire, which was on Hewlett Road, the chief of the day took command, and he had found it was controlled burn without a permit. He had the fire extinguished, and subsequently he invoiced them for an unauthorized open air burning during restricted hours. The property owner has requested council reconsider the invoice. Considerations for council: this was direct contravention of bylaw 2019-31 part 2 section 3. No person shall set, maintain, or cause or set or maintain open air fire between the hours of 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. from April 1st to October 31st, except permitted under a permit, a burn permit, which he did not have at the time. Subsequently, there's the fees for services bylaw 2019-105 was used to administer the fine, which was for 3 apparatus responding as we would for any call like that at MTO rates. MTO rates at the time were $4.88 and 50 cents, or sorry, $4.85 per hour. So some of the concerns that were brought forward in the letter is one was that the fire was maintained in a cement structure. I did put an accompanying picture that you'll see there that the actual area was burning was made out of wood. There's 2 subsequent other concerns that are addressed in the previous bylaw that we have, and that was the size of the fire, because the fire has to be 2 meters in size. So it's again another contravention of the same bylaw, and the black heavy smoke, along with witnesses' statements from our firefighters, that shows a petroleum product, which in turn is in violation. The recommendation of the fire department is that the fine is appropriate and the fee shouldn't be waived. Ultimately, the issue is it was a full violation. The person wasn't allowed to burn from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. as per our bylaw. So, any questions in regards to this?
Does anybody have any questions or need any clarifications? It's a little bit difficult because Chief French was not the fire chief at the time. But certainly there's been an investigation into the people who were around at the time. So thoughts from council. We have had previous requests to reconsider the invoices for similar illegal burns, and council has denied them on the fact that they're illegal burns. So I think that's the only question that council needs to address is contravention, yes or no. I appreciate there are some other details in the letter, but not sure that those are relevant in this case or in any case. Councillor Dayu.
These situations are always very disappointing for the folk who may not have known about the bylaw, but as we've said a number of times, it really is up to each individual, each citizen to know the bylaws that are active within the area. It does seem like there was a contravention on a couple of different points, pretty clearly evidenced in the photograph. So I concur fully with the chief's recommendation.
Other thoughts from council? Councillor Barry.
Yes, I concur with the fire chief, and I think, you know, it sets a bit of a precedent if we have these bylaws in place and we don't enforce them, then everyone just thinks that they can have a burn of this size and structure without a permit, and they'll just write a letter and it will be taken away. So I also think it's interesting that in the letter it said there was, you know, safety measures in place, and it does look like there's a fair amount of bush right behind with not a lot of water suppressant available.
Deputy Mayor Liz, you had your hand up, I think.
Simply to say that I concur with the recommendation.
Okay, may I have a mover and a seconder to receive the report and support the chief's recommendation? Councillor Dayu and Deputy Mayor Danielson.
Moved by Councillor Dayu, second by Deputy Mayor Danielson. Be it resolved, the council acknowledge receipt of correspondence from Mr. Fedesky requesting an invoice be received for burning with no permit be waived, and that council receives report FD 1621 regarding a no fire permit invoice submitted by Mike French and dated October 7th, 2021. And further, the council supports the recommendation of the fire chief made in the said report and denies the request by Mr. Fedesky to waive the invoice fees.
You've heard the resolution. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Thank you, Chief, for looking into this for us.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Finance business is next. Is Jeannie coming in? Madam CAO?
No, she sends her regrets. Unfortunately, they had to do some, the finance team has to do some training on our new software, and we're very close to conversion. So they had to attend that. So I can speak to that if council wishes.
Great. Thank you. Take it away then.
Okay. So this is just the annual report that the treasurer normally puts together for council around timelines for budget. So we've put together, once again, very similar dates as last year. So just looking for council's direction in that regard, as well as if there can be any consideration around a target for budget. Just to start, whether it be 1.5, which is what council directed last year, or whatever you wish.
Thank you. Appreciate laying out the dates. And it can be difficult to provide a target. And, you know, we've talked, I think we need to be really prepared for a robust discussion at projects and priorities. We have a lot going on. We have a lot of opportunities. And I think various folks have spoken in the last couple of years that it's nice to stay at 1.5, one-ish, 1.5, and we're not quite sure that that can cut it anymore with the growth that the community is seeing. Keeping in mind that a 1% increase on the tax rate only generates about, is it $54,000, $55,000? Yeah, so you have to separate the percentage from the actual dollars that it generates. So if everyone's okay with those dates, we'll put them in our calendars, and then let staff get prepared for this timeline and roll up our sleeves for next year's budget. Everybody okay with that? Liz, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on the, the request to try and set a target. And while I appreciate that does make all the department heads' jobs a little bit easier, I just don't think that we can do that this year, given the kind of priorities that we're going to be facing and challenges. I just think it's tough. We might be able to do that after projects and priorities, but certainly not now.
And so I think maybe let's just explore that a little bit. If you don't have a target, you, in theory, I remember one year, back in the old days, one year, Brian Whetstone, who was the operations manager at the time, said that his department alone could be responsible for a 29% increase in the tax rate for all the projects. So you have to be careful about not leaving it too wide open, because then it can be 412%. So I think we have to find some common ground. We can, if we set a target that's low, we can go up, or if we set it a little higher, then we can cut. So it depends on which way you feel based on the estimations of various projects that come out of projects and priorities. I'd like us to wait till we have projects and priorities and see then if we feel we can do something at that time, because we're trying to make a decision on something, on a conversation we haven't yet had. So let's not commit either way. Councillor Dayu?
I think the advantage we have this year is that we do have an AMP in our hands. And I think the staff are probably going to be looking to that extensively to try to figure out, how do we parse all of these activities out over the coming decade or more. So I would agree with you, Mayor Moffat, that maybe if they have an opportunity to look through that document first and try to figure out what that might be in their minds, then at projects and priorities time, we'd probably come down with a target which is realistic given the new information that we have.
Yeah, it would absolutely be the expectation that the asset management plan would be the foundation of projects and priorities. That's certainly its purpose, and hopefully, to your point, it just paves the way. Instead of picking things, they've been picked for us by other folks. Okay, well, so we'll leave it at that, and was there another hand? Did I see another hand there? Liz, go back to you then.
I was just going to say that, yeah, of course, the asset management plan is a foundation for budgeting, but we might be able to set the target for wage increase.
Yeah, because that comes forward. Although do we talk about that at projects priorities, Madam CAO? Does that come into play there?
Yeah, we've done it a couple of different ways. We've done it at projects and priorities, and we've done it ahead of that. And we do know, however, that the CPI right now is 4%. So I'm assuming that council isn't interested in that number. So
probably not.
Mm.
So I think again we're kind of speculating. So let's wait. Let's just keep this floating. And let's see what our projects priorities day looks like, and then revisit our ability to set any targets at that day. If it could come in very smoothly and appear easy peasy, and there could be a few speed bumps there. So I think we can leave it until, I mean, it's still, well, it's a number of weeks away yet. Liz?
Well, I'm just kind of shocked at that number. But when I listening to the news this morning, they were talking about a 33% increase in the cost of food. So, we're going to have to take those things into consideration.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the challenging thing is we're trying to develop a community, and we're trying to, create options and opportunities for people. And we're not a benevolent aid organization. So we have to keep, compassion for the certain circumstances of various folks in mind, as well as the needs, the infrastructure and sort of hard surface needs. So, that's the whole purpose behind projects and priorities, is to really get a handle on where we're headed. So, and it's a crazy time. I mean, look at the price of gas just went through the roof as well. So
yeah.
There are some challenges. There are some challenges ahead. So we can accept this timeline for the discussions, and that allows staff to put their heads down and get working on that for us. And projects and priorities, November 17th. So anyway, mark your calendars. And may I have is there anything else anybody wants to say? Mover and a seconder to receive this. Are you moving and seconding, Jen?
I'm happy to, but I was also going to say, good idea to plan for an additional special meeting, because we'll probably use it. We almost always do. So it's nice to get that in the agenda right from the beginning. And I'm happy to move if you'd like.
Okay, moved by Councillor Dayu and seconded by Deputy Mayor Danielson.
Moved by Councillor Dayou, second by Deputy Mayor Danielson. Be it resolved that Council receives report TT 1621 submitted by Jean Hughes and dated October 6, 2021 regarding the proposed 2022 budget schedule, and that Council concurs with the proposed timelines, and that Council establishes a special council meeting on February 16th, 2022 for budget deliberations.
All in favor? Carried, thank you. Next up under administration business is from communications, and it's the theme for the Bang the Table platform we'll be using. So we'll bring in Mr. Ingram. Mr. Ingram, that's your dad.
I don't know, he's getting pretty gray.
Welcome, Chad. You have to get off mute. This is funny. You're on mute. You're going to have to go and tell him he's on mute.
Chad, you're on mute.
There.
Hello.
There you go. Hi.
Okay, as I was saying, I see you guys up here still, so I apologize for that. It's going to be a little confusing, so I'm not ignoring if I look up here. But this is to choose the theme for the Bang the Table portal for the township, and we presented you with 10 options, and we're hoping that you will pick one of them.
Yeah, I would just go straight to, I know which one is my favorite, but I would just go straight to the group and see if we can land on one that we think is appropriate for our needs. I see Deputy Mayor Danielson's hand in the air, and then Jen.
I absolutely love Let's Connect Algonquin Highlands. I think that that says it all for the purposes of this program.
Councillor Dayou, what was your choice going to be?
Well, I had two favorites because of the visuals and the connection to our identity as a township. One was Dive In Algonquin Highlands, and one was Tap Into Algonquin Highlands, because I think, as I say, you can do so much with with that theme as a theme. It offers a lot. I would like to offer one other idea to my short list, and that is the Algonquin Highlands Hive, bringing into mind the sort of the hive mind of social media, but also you get a bit of alliteration there with Highlands and Hive. But I like the other two very, very much too, so I sort of see them all as being favorites.
Okay, then we'll just go around the table. Councillor Shortreed, what say ye? What are your choices? And if we end up with 7 different choices, we're going to have to reconvene how we do this. Maybe we go to Bang the Table and ask the public what they'd like. But anyway, Julie, what's your thoughts?
I had one too, and mine was It's Your Turn, Algonquin Highlands. But I also like the Connect one that Liz said too.
Okay, I'm doing a stick count here on my piece of paper.
Okay.
Lisa Berry, what say ye?
I liked the Tap Into. I also liked Algonquin Highlands Connects. The only other thing I did tend to like the shorter ones. The only other suggestion I had was something about like Algonquin Highlands Engages, but I'm completely open to the majority.
So are you saying that you like Let's Connect or Algonquin Highlands Connects? Because they both have the word connect in them. So I'm going to take that as a connect thing.
Right, either one I'm fine with.
So that would be 3. So the Let's Connect Algonquin Highlands is actually would appear to be 1, 2. Yeah, Let's Connect. So we'll get whatever our individual choices were. We'll get used to it. I think we have way bigger fish to fry than what we call our portal. But this is great, and I appreciate the choices. And I think the Let's Connect Algonquin Highlands was actually the CAO's contribution to the list. So well done, Andy. So Let's Connect it is then, Mr. Ingram.
Okay.
Let's connect. Now here's my question.
Yeah.
Let's talk grammar. Is it Let's Connect Algonquin Highlands, or is it Let's Connect Algonquin Highlands?
Right. I mean, I think for simplicity's sake, you leave commas and colons and stuff out. But we can talk about that. You can talk about that now, but I would leave it as just the way it is. I think personally, but that's the council's decision.
It's certainly not a conversation I want to get knee deep into. I don't know that that's necessary, but Liz has her hand up, so let's hear what Liz has to say.
What Chad said.
Good. May I have a mover and a seconder to accept Let's Connect Algonquin Highlands as the theme for Bang the Table? Councillor Shortreed, Councillor Barry.
By Councillor Shortreed, second by Councillor Barry, be it resolved that council received report COM 221 regarding the Bang the Table portal theme selection submitted by Chad Ingram dated October 7th, 2021. And further, the council selects Let's Connect Algonquin Highlands as the Bang the Table theme.
All in favor? That's carried. Thank you for your input. Thanks for that work, Chad, and we'll see you again.
Thank you.
We have a raft of planning business today, so we'll bring Mr. O'Callaghan back in. Welcome back, Sean.
Thank you.
First up for you is the proposed Rogers Tower, and take us through that, please.
Yes, so this is Rogers Tower that's being proposed. It has been before council twice before, and this is an additional extension they're seeking for this specific site. So I am recommending approval of the extension, provided the same conditions that were originally imposed carry forward. So I don't see that being a concern with Rogers. It won't be new to them what we're asking. So that would be my recommendation.
Thoughts from council? We did receive some correspondence from the area, and I believe Councillor Dayu is going to bring that forward. Please go ahead, Jen.
Thanks. Yes, we did receive a letter from a constituent in the area who has long memory of these things and wrote a little bit about the memory in the letter, reminding us that when the original agreement was reached with the township, the Quagama Lake Cottager Association had some inputs into that and had requested a number of conditions, one of which was a shortened time period for erection of the tower, knowing that very soon thereafter there was going to be a second tower erected by Bell. And the idea was if Rogers didn't erect their tower within that more limited period of time, then perhaps once Bell had erected theirs, the question of co-location could come to the table. And I thought that was a really good reminder because I wonder, Sean, have you had any inputs from Rogers within the last number of years, or could we have another conversation with them again now about the prospect of co-location as the Bell Tower is in place? Co-location is a fairly routine thing to do. And the constituent who wrote in said that the cell signal from that tower is quite strong within the area, suggesting that the Rogers signal would also be quite strong from that area. So that was point number one, whether we could investigate co-location. And then there was another question that he raised about the lights, which obviously have been a concern for lots of folks in the area who are not used to a big light on the tower. And the question being for this tower and also the historical towers that we've got, for the cases where the lights are there to support air traffic and air safety, if there is anything we can do to shield some of that light being reflected downwards towards the cottages, towards the lakes. So that's sort of a second question. The question of the day really is the co-location, but if we're going to be in touch with Rogers, perhaps we could investigate the lights as well.
Sean, what options do we have, if any, around those concerns? They're tremendously valid. The lights are a huge issue for anybody, and it's not. They're really annoying. So, do we have any options around that here?
So I have posed both questions to my contact with Rogers. Unfortunately, I just received that correspondence last night, so I don't have an answer back from them yet. Just going through the file quickly, there is a letter from November 5th, 2014 for this same proposal where co-location was looked at. And in this letter there, Rogers is explaining how this site was specifically chosen to work with their equipment that they already have in place with other towers. I'm not an expert in this field by any means, but I have to rely on what they're saying, that they've looked at this site and this is the only site that would work best for them. However, it doesn't hurt to ask. So I have posed that question to them. So this letter of concurrence is set to expire in November, I believe. So we could potentially defer this until our November meeting, until we have answers from Rogers on that. If council wishes to do that, we could certainly look at that.
Well, I'd certainly like to do that. When you look at the map and you see where the two towers are, we've got a massive county and a massive township under our own jurisdiction. And there's two towers that are within, I know they're not, but within spitting distance of each other. And it's outrageous. And they just don't like to co-locate. That's, I believe that's the bottom line, is they just don't want to. And I think we need to push a little bit on this. It just seems completely unreasonable to put more fake trees and more lights in the sky that close together. Back to Jen and then to Liz.
Thank you. Yes, if they are concerned that there would be a reduction in service or there is some other disadvantage to co-location, perhaps they could outline those changes and those differences in their evidence to us, so that, if it's only a really, really small amount, we could encourage and push for co-location a little bit further. If it's a large amount, obviously that's fine. But I tend to agree with Mayor Moffat. I wonder if it's more a question of will than of science and technology. So it would be good to get the evidence on that.
Yeah, and I think we also need to remember, it's worth reiterating that we are not the approval authority. We are providing a letter of concurrence, which means we are confirming that they have followed the protocol as outlined. Now, Algonquin Highlands a number of years ago got away from the Industry Canada standard process and developed its own. But even if Algonquin Highlands, if Rogers came back and said no, and Algonquin Highlands said, we're not going to give you a letter of concurrence, they can still build their tower there, because we are not an approval authority. We are our concurrence just simply says, yes, they went through the process as outlined in our process. Liz.
I definitely think that we should follow up and see if there is some movement that can be made there, particularly with respect to the lights. I mean, that's a big problem. I understand the issue about, the tower working with other equipment, that they've got other towers in connection. The one thing that I just wanted to say that is different from 2014 is that Rogers was the successful proponent with EORN on their CellGAT project. And that would definitely have changed the picture for them. But, Rogers also talks about how well they work with municipalities and about partnerships. And, so it's definitely worth an effort in trying to get some cooperation from them.
Perhaps there's value then in including some of those comments in the inquiry, in the direct inquiry to Rogers, to remind them of those commitments. If they have, I don't think we've seen a fulsome map of where towers are supposed to go for the EORN project. And do we know that this tower is one of them? And is it possible that their delay is in relation to that process, the EORN process? So I think there's a number of questions worth asking. So, we will, Madam Clerk, do we have to vote for a deferral, or do we just defer because we're going to seek more information?
Just word the motion to defer and request Rogers Communications to confirm on the light shield as well as the co-location on the existing bell tower in the area.
And can we add to that resolution something in relation to the EORN project? I don't know, Liz, maybe you can craft a quick sentence around that and confirmation of no conflicts or duplications as contained in the EORN project. Would that make sense? Go ahead, Liz.
Yeah, right after they were awarded that contract, they put out a sort of a public statement about the work that they would do with partners and municipalities and the good things that they do. And it certainly won't hurt to remind them of that. I would also suggest that maybe Sean contact David Fell with Eorn, who could tell you about the ability to make a change in the location of the tower. He might be able to shed some light on that, which might help our arguments.
Sean, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I was just going to note in the correspondence from Rogers, they do note that this tower was part or is part of the Eorn network. But we can certainly still reach out as far as if they change the location, would it still meet their intent with this tower?
Okay, so we'll await that. So the clerk has advised that so we need a mover and a seconder for the motion, but to defer it pending the receipt of further information. So may I have a mover and a seconder for that? Deputy Mayor Danielson and Councillor Barry. Thank you for speaking to that, Councillor Dayu.
Make the motion to include that Rogers confirm there's no conflict with the Eorn project. Or with the that they spoke to that in their original letter.
Well, Sean has said that they have already confirmed that it's not a conflict with the Eorn project. So we could, just to have it in one piece of correspondence, ask them to reconfirm and read. So I'd leave it in. Better safe than sorry.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Danielson, seconded by Councillor Barry. Be it resolved that Council receives correspondence from Rogers Communications Inc. requesting a concurrence extension for the Rogers Communication proposed wireless telecom site known as C4384 County Road 8, part of lots 21 and 22, concession 11, Township of Sherburne. And the Council defers its decision and requests Rogers Communication to confirm if a shade or shield can be added, and if the proposed tower could be co-located on the existing bell tower in this area. And that confirmation there, and that Rogers confirmed there is no conflict as contained in the Eorn project.
Yeah, I think that covers it. Yeah. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. All right. Next up is site plan application in the name of Fellows and Rawlings on Big Hawk Lake.
Yes, this is a property located on Big Hawk Lake. It did receive approval at the Committee of Adjustment for a minor variance application in 2019. A condition of that minor variance was the lands be subject to site plan approval. They did enter into a site plan agreement in 2020 with the township and commenced construction, which has now been completed on the property. They are looking to now construct a deck on the front of the building as well as a detached garage on the property. So in order to do this, they would first need to amend their site plan agreement registered on title. So this application is really to bring that forward for council approval. Both the deck and the detached garage will meet the zoning bylaw requirements, and staff are recommending approval of the proposed site plan amendment.
Questions or thoughts from council? May I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Dayu and Deputy Mayor Danielson.
Dayu, second by Deputy Mayor Danielson. Be it resolved that Council receives report PL 9721 prepared by Sean Callahan and dated October 7th, 2021 regarding the site plan application by Shelley Fellows and Ross Rawlings for part of Lot 18 and 19, concession 12, geographic township of Stanhope, Baycock Lake, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign the site plan agreement on behalf of the township of Algonquin Highlands, and further that council supports the proposed site plan application, subject to the following conditions. One, that the applicant enter into a site plan agreement with the township of Algonquin Highlands, and it be registered on title.
All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Next up is a bylaw coming back to finalize the name of Withers on Halls Lake.
Yes, this is the bylaw to close the shore road allowance in front of this property. Circulated to the prescribed agencies as well as to neighboring properties. No objections or easements were requested or received, and staff would recommend approval of the proposed bylaw.
Any questions, comments from council? May I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Shortreed, Councillor Barry.
By Councillor Shortreed, second by Councillor Barry. Be it resolved that council receives report PL 9821 regarding the proposed shore road allowance closing fronting property located at part of lot 15, concession 8, geographic township of Stanhope, Falls Lake, submitted by Sean O'Callaghan and dated October 7th, 2021. And the council deems the said shore road allowance to be surplus and concurs with the recommendation made in the said report and directs the bylaw to stop up, close, and convey the said shore road allowance be brought forward for further consideration.
All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Next up is same again in the name of Koski on Halls Lake.
Yes, another bylaw to close the shore road allowance in front of this property. Again, no objections or easements are being, no objections were received or easements required, and staff are recommending approval of the proposed bylaw.
Questions or comments from council? May I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Barry, Councillor Dayu.
By Councillor Barry, second by Councillor Dayu. Be it resolved, council received report PL 9921 regarding the proposed shore road allowance closing fronting property located at part of lot 16, concession 7, geographic township of Stanhope, Halls Lake, submitted by Sean O'Callaghan and dated October 7th, 2021. And that council deems the said shore road allowance to be surplus and concurs with the recommendation made in the said report and directs a bylaw to stop up, close, and convey the said shore road allowance be brought forward for further consideration.
All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Same again. We're on a bit of a roll here. Same again for Smith on Halls Lake.
Yes, another bylaw for a property on Halls Lake to close the shore road allowance. Again, no objections received or easements required, and staff are recommending approval of the proposed bylaw.
Questions or comments from council? May I have a mover and a seconder? Deputy Mayor Danielson, Councillor Shortreed.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Danielson, seconded by Councillor Shortreed. Be it resolved that council receives report PL 121 regarding the proposed shore road allowance closing fronting property located at part of lot 15, concession 8, geographic township of Stanhope, Falls Lake, submitted by Sean O'Callaghan, dated October 7th, 2021. And the council deems the said shore road allowance to be surplus and concurs with the recommendation made in the said report and directs a bylaw to stop up, close, and convey the said shore road allowance be brought forward for further consideration.
All in favor? It's carried. And Crosby on Halls Lake.
Yes, another bylaw to close the shore road allowance in front of this property. No objections received or easements required, and staff are recommending approval of the proposed bylaw.
Questions, comments from council? May I have a mover and a seconder? Deputy Mayor Danielson, Councillor Shortreed.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Danielson, seconded by Councillor Shortreed. Be it resolved that council receives report PL 10121 regarding the proposed shore road allowance fronting property located at part of lot 16, concession 7, geographic township of Stanhope, Halls Lake, submitted by Sean O'Callaghan, dated October 7th, 2021. And the council deems the said shore road allowance to be surplus and concurs with the recommendation made in the said report and directs the bylaw to stop up, close, and pay the said shore road allowance be brought forward for further consideration.
All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. And again, under the name of Finland on Maple Lake.
Yes, moving off of Halls Lake and now onto Maple Lake, the shore road allowance in front of this property. Again, no objections received or easements required, and staff would recommend approval of the bylaw.
Questions? Mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Shortreed, Councillor Barry.
Moved by Councillor Shortreed, second by Councillor Barry, be it resolved that council receives report PL 10221 regarding the proposed shore road allowance closing fronting property located at part of lot 27, concession 4, geographic township of Stanhope, Maple Lake, submitted by Sean O'Callahan and dated October 7th, 2021. The council deems the said shore road allowance to be surplus and concurs with the recommendation in the said report and directs a bylaw to stop up, closing, and may the said shore road allowance be brought forward for further consideration.
All in favor? Carried. Staying on Maple Lake, in the name of Han.
Yes, another bylaw to close the shore road allowance in front of this property. No objections received or easements required, and staff would recommend approval of the proposed bylaw.
Questions, comments? Ms. Danielson.
Just looking at the attached map, it appears that the shore road allowance is out of line with the actual lot. Am I reading that correctly? And
Sorry, are you referencing the GIS map or the survey?
I think it's the survey.
Survey. There's no GIS map attached to this file.
Oh, okay.
Just seems like there's an overlap onto the next property, and I just wonder if we, you know, if you authorize the sale of a shore road allowance, portion of which is in front of another property.
The survey I'm looking at is a straight line projection of the side lot lines.
They're buying what they're buying part one.
Correct.
Yeah.
So part two is the actual lot.
Part two is the property owner who's applied to close the shore road allowance.
Oh, okay. I guess I was looking at the concessions behind that.
Oh, I see. No, so yeah, they actually own that property back there as well. The property to the east, I guess, of this one, they own a portion of their shore road allowance, but this application is not closing a shore road allowance in front of anyone else's property other than the applicant.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's more straightforward than it looks. It's the heavily outlined piece, parts 1 and 2. Oh, okay. Okay, may I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Shortreed, Councillor Barry.
By Councillor Shortreed, second by Councillor Barry. Be it resolved that council receives report PL 10321 regarding the proposed shore road allowance closing fronting property located at part of lot 26, concession 4, geographic township of Stanhope, Maple Lake, submitted by Sean O'Callahan and dated October 7th, 2021. And the council deems the said shore road allowance to be surplus and concurs with the recommendation made in the said report and directs a bylaw to stop up, close, and convey the said shore road allowance be brought forward for further consideration.
All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Moving into applications, we have an application on Boshkung Lake, Ott and Bierma.
Yes, this is the application to close the shore road allowance in front of the property. It is a developed piece of land with the cottage being possibly located partially on the shore road allowance or entirely, but until we have the survey, we won't know for sure. But other than that, staff would recommend it proceed through the regular process to close the shore road allowance.
Any questions from council? May I have a mover and a seconder? Deputy Mayor Danielson and Councillor Barry.
By Deputy Mayor Danielson, second by Councillor Barry. Be it resolved that council receives report PL 10421 regarding proposed shore road allowance closing fronting property located at part of lot 7, concession 3, geographic township of Stanhope, Boshkung Lake, submitted by Sean O'Callahan, dated October 7th, 2021. And the council approves in principle application OSRA 3221 made to stop up, close, and convey the said shoreline road allowance, and that the applicants are requested to proceed in accordance with the shoreline road allowance closing procedure.
All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Another application on Little Hawk Lake under the name of Peel Chatty. I may have pronounced that poorly, and I apologize if I did.
Yes, so this property is located on Little Hawk Lake. It is a developed piece of land. They are looking at potentially doing future works down at the shoreline, which would require the closure of the shore road allowance first. So they are proceeding through that step. And staff would recommend approval in principle and that they proceed through the regular process.
Any questions? May I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Dayu, Councillor Shortreed.
Moved by Councillor Dayu, second by Councillor Shortreed. Be it resolved that council receives report PL 10521 regarding the proposed shore road allowance closing for any property located at part of lot 19, concession 10, geographic township of Stanhope, Little Hawk Lake, submitted by Sean O'Callaghan, dated October 7th, 2021, and the council approves in principle application OSRA 3321, made to stop up, close, and convey the said shoreline road allowance, and that the applicants are requested to proceed in accordance with the shoreline road allowance closing procedure.
All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Application on Little Hawk Lake in the name of Raftus.
Yes, another application to close the shore road allowance in front of this property. It is a developed piece of land, and they are looking at doing some future renovations to existing structures that do encroach onto the shore road allowance. So staff would recommend that proceed through the regular steps to close the shore road allowance.
Questions? Mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Shortreed, Councillor Dayu.
Councillor Shortreed, second by Councillor Dayu. Be it resolved that council receives report PL 10621 regarding the proposed shore road allowance closing fronting property located at part of lot 19 and 20, concession 10, geographic township of Stanhope, Little Hawk Lake, submitted by Sean O'Callaghan and dated October 7th, 2021. The council approves in principle application OSRA 3421, made to stop up, close, and convey the said shore road allowance, and that the applicants are requested to proceed in accordance with shoreline road allowance closing procedure.
All in favor? Carried. We're getting there. Quagama Lake application in the name of Irwin.
Yes, an application to close the shore road allowance in front of this property. It is a developed piece of land. This is the draft survey attached with this one, which does show a portion of the cottages located on the shore road allowance. So they will need to close that before we can issue any permits for additions to that structure. So staff would recommend it proceed through the regular process to close the shore road allowance.
Questions? Mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Dayu, Councillor Barry.
Councillor Dayu, second by Councillor Barry. Be it resolved that council receives report PL 10721 regarding the proposed shore road allowance closing fronting property located at part of lot 28, concession 13, geographic township of Sherburne, Quagama Lake, submitted by Sean O'Callaghan, dated October 7th, 2021, and that council approved in principle application OSRA 3521, made to stop up, close, and convey the said shoreline road allowance, and that the applicants are requested to proceed in accordance with the shoreline road allowance closing procedure.
All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Another application, moving down to Cushog Lake in the name of Chalmers.
Yes, another application to close the shore road allowance in front of this property. It is developed. There are several structures located on the shore road allowance, and they are looking at doing some future improvements to the property. So they will need to close this first. Staff would recommend it proceed through the regular process to close that shore road allowance.
Questions? Mover and a seconder, please. Deputy Mayor Danielson, Councillor Shortreed.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Danielson, second by Councillor Shortreed. Be it resolved that council receives report PL 10821 regarding proposed shoreline road allowance closing fronting property located at part of lots 1 and 2, concession 5, geographic township of Stanhope, Cushog Lake, submitted by Sean O'Callaghan, dated October 7th, 2021, and the council approves in principle application OSRA 3621, made to stop up, close, and convey the said shoreline road allowance, and that applicants are requested to proceed in accordance with the shoreline road allowance closing procedure.
All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. And our final application is Big Hawk Lake in the name of Smith.
Yes, another application to close the shore road allowance Also a developed piece of property with some intents of future development with an existing cabin encroaching on the shore road allowance. So staff would recommend it proceed through the regular process to close that shore road allowance.
Questions? Mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Berry, Councillor Dayu.
By Councillor Berry, second by Councillor Dayu, be it resolved that council acknowledge receipt of report PL 10921 regarding the proposed shore road allowance closing fronting property located at part of lot 23, concession 14, geographic township of Stanhope, Big Hawk Lake, submitted by Sean O'Callahan and dated October 7th, 2021. The council approves in principle application OSRA 3721 made to stop up closing of the said shoreline road allowance, and that the applicants are requested to proceed in accordance with the shoreline road allowance closing procedure.
All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. And finally is just the minutes from the most recent Committee of Adjustment meeting. Are there any questions? There rarely are. And may I have a mover and a seconder to receive them? Councillor Dayu, Councillor Berry.
Councillor Dayu, second by Councillor Berry, be it resolved that council receives for information report PL 11021 regarding the September 24th, 2021 Committee of Adjustment minutes submitted by Sean O'Callahan and dated October 7th, 2021.
All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thank you, Sean. You've been very busy.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, Lisa, I was going to say Lisa maybe needs to shift her chair a little bit. She's in a big shaft of sunlight. Moving on to external boards. I think the first thing up is there's a health hub update there. And Councillor Dayu, if there's anything you want to speak to there.
I think the only thing I would add to that is a bit of continued correspondence with Colin Rini over financials. He did indicate that they are on track regarding their expenditures for this year. Everything looks fine, but they are down in grants and down with donations, which is concerning. It's just par for the course for so many organizations in these COVID days. But I'm sure I speak for the entirety of the committee when I say we look forward to trying to reinvigorate fundraising for upcoming years as soon as the committee can start meeting in person and people can start coming back together in our society. So if anyone out there in the public is listening, do consider a donation to our wonderful hub. They provide a tremendous service for us, and we hope to create some good events in the coming months and years to to bring their coffers back up to where they should be.
We don't normally solicit donations at a council meeting, but thank you for the plug there. Councillor Berry.
Just a question. Is this a report or just an email? I just wondered about identifying individuals in this correspondence.
Is anybody identified? I don't think so. I think I was wondering, Councillor Dayu, if you knew, I guess because this year we made an exception to just pass for the contribution of 10,000. It has traditionally been very strongly held toward capital. And because of COVID, we agreed to just let it be unrestricted and just go into the pot. So I guess that means we don't know what that money was used specifically for. It just sort of doled out. Go ahead.
Yes, I have no specific information regarding that. I'm sure we could make that request to the Health Hub and they would, and they would specify. If I might also respond to Councillor Berry's question about identification of individuals. May I?
Yeah, I don't see any names there, so I don't think we've broken any.
No, there are a couple of names.
So they are in the very first. Yeah. Okay. Yep.
Yeah, there are a couple of names. It is an email that was sent out to members of the committee, and in absence of being able to meet and have meeting minutes in order to report back, I did reach out to Colin to say, may I please use this correspondence? And he agreed. So there is the permission of the hub for that information to be shared in a public meeting.
Okay, great. Thanks for clarifying that. Liz.
I appreciating all the work that they do and the challenges that they've got. I think it would be a good maybe to get a little bit more information about what they're doing as opposed to in an informal email. I would like to see some financial statements. And I, you know, I think that we need to revisit our discussion about operational versus capital infusions from Algonquin Highlands. I have a bit of a problem with covering our funding covering the cost of prescriptions. You know, I understand the challenges that people are having, but I have a bit of a problem, you know, wherein we're providing funding to certain residents and not to others. I'm just not sure that that's our function.
Yeah, I have to say that I would support our conversation at the end of the year around budget to reassign the money back toward capital. There's a long history as to why we had done that. Look, there's no question the amount and scope of work that these folks have done is beyond compare. It's extraordinary. But there is a bit of an equity issue, and we had committed in the very beginning that the money would be for capital, and I would like us to revisit that when we have our budget discussions for sure. I see hands. Oh, I see Councillor Dayu.
Thank you. Yes, I would obviously welcome that conversation. When we have that conversation, I'd like to take a 40,000-foot view of how health services are financed around our province and the role that municipalities play in general, and maybe with a few specifics in mind, just so that we can see how we fit within that model, and whether what we're doing is a bit extraordinary or actually quite normal, and basically how the system functions. So whether we request someone from health services to come in and do a bit of a delegation on that, or whether we request perhaps staff to do a bit of investigation, I think that meta review, even if it's very short, would help to inform our conversation about how our donations get allocated.
Okay, we can certainly visit the conversation. I don't know who would come in, or anyway, I don't know, but I'll leave that with the CAO to figure out what that might look like. But you know, there's no question that the work that they do is, as we said, is extraordinary. And Madam Clerk, do you have a resolution to receive this note? No, you don't. Okay. Thank you for that. I don't think anybody's meeting. Safety and Wellbeing is plugging away. That's all I can say. Library Board, the new CEO has begun his job. So there's been one meeting, and I think there's another one coming up in regards to budget. Is there anything from you, Madam Deputy Mayor and Warden, for Eorn? Any news, anything else there?
No, I don't think so. I just one addition to the Library Board. The Library Board did have a strategic planning session last week, which was fairly successful. I think it definitely helped in setting direction. We didn't get quite as far as we would have liked to have, but it was a good session, and it was my first in-person meeting, which was interesting. It was kind of nice.
Nice to be in the company of humans.
Yeah. Everyone was double vaccinated.
Yeah, terrific. Okay, thank you for that. And there was recently a Muskoka Watershed Communications Committee meeting, but there was really nothing to report from that. I did learn, interestingly enough, this is more of perhaps a county issue, but I did, somebody mentioned something about there being some funding that had arrived, and I did make an inquiry, and it turns out that the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks is funding 16 projects, one of which is a hydrology model for Muskoka. So it's just, I've been kind of waving the angry flag about this for some time, that Haliburton County is miles ahead in its integrated watershed management process and relationships and modeling, and we've had to beg and scrape for every cent. And this is just some more money. I'm not sure what fund or pot it came out of, but it's I just keep calling it the Muskoka Millions, but it's frustrating that a neighboring municipality continues to receive tremendous amounts of money to address problems that neighboring communities and other jurisdictions across the province are facing. So I haven't quite delved into the project itself. I do have some links that were sent to me and the money, but I don't think it's new money. Councillor Dayu.
I wonder if now is another moment to write a letter and say, look, there are equity issues here. Cottage country across Ontario is vast. It isn't just one region. We all have these same questions, and we've said it before, but we'd like to say it again now. Do you think this is the right time for such a letter, or have we banged that pot a bit too much?
Well, I did say it's almost more a county issue because the projects that are, but I don't think you're wrong. The projects that that we've been sort of scraping and begging for funds to achieve are at the county level, the LIDAR mapping and whatnot. And I just received this the other day, and I would be happy to, on your advice, take it to the county and say, are we going to do anything? We have been, it's kind of complicated because the only reason we're at the table where I can find these things out is because the watershed that is receiving the money is the top end of Algonquin Highlands. So it's good that that's there. And it's also very interesting to see, in comparison to the relationship between and among municipalities, CEWF and TSW, how that works and operates in comparison to the relationship between and among the municipalities and the power generators and other stakeholders in the Muskoka side. In that watershed, they are a little bit behind us. In some ways, they have different battles, different hills to climb. But in the end, when they issue a press release that says the Muskoka region is one of Ontario's crown jewels, and we want to ensure that we continue to protect the environment, which is so important to the local economy and the great people who live there, said Premier Doug Ford. Well, I think there is a lot of other jurisdictions in Ontario that would like to receive that same largesse over and over. So I don't disagree. I mean, Liz is the warden. So having just received this, Liz, I can share it out with you, and we can, to Jen's point, maybe take it to county just to keep county informed of how this is working.
Absolutely. Yep.
So, all right, we'll circle back on that. And I said there was nothing to report. There you go. But yeah, thanks for that idea, Jen. I think we should just keep hammering at that. Okay, I think that's it. Correspondence. I don't believe anything was brought forward. So I would like a mover and a seconder to receive the correspondence listing. I'm just going to assign names. Councillor Shortreed and Councillor Berry.
Moved by Councillor Shortreed, second by Councillor Berry. Be it resolved that Council receives the correspondence listing for the period of September 8th to September 29th, 2021 for information.
All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. May I have a mover and a seconder to move into closed session? Councillor Dayu and Councillor Shortreed.
By Councillor Dayu, second by Councillor Shortreed. Be it resolved that Council adjourns its open session at 10:17 a.m. to proceed into closed session for the purpose of discussing the following. 1, potential acquisition or disposition of land in accordance with section 239(2)(c) of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended. Potential disposal of township property. 2, advice subject to solicitor-client privilege, section 239(2) of the Municipal Act 2001 SO as amended, zoning compliance matter.
All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. We'll see you back here in a minute.
So we are live.
Thank you. So we are reconvened. May I have a mover and a seconder to resume the regular council meeting? Deputy Mayor Danielson and Councillor Shortreed.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Danielson, second by Councillor Shortreed. Be it resolved that the closed session adjourned 11:29 a.m. and the open session resumed.
All in favor? Carried. Thank you. May I have a mover and a seconder for the bylaws? Councillor Dayu, Councillor Shortreed.
Moved by Councillor Dayu, second by Councillor Shortreed. Be it resolved that the following bylaws be received and read a first time, considered read a second and third time, and finally passed with the corporate seal affixed. Bylaw 2021-110 to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute a site plan control agreement between the corporation of the Township of Algonquin Highlands and Ross Rawlings trustee and Shelley Marie Fellows trustee. Bylaw 2021-111 to stop up, close, convey part of the original shoreline road allowance fronting front of lot 15, concession 8, geographic township of Stanhope. Bylaw 2021-112 to stop up, close, and convey part of the original shore road allowance in front of lot 16, concession 7, and part of lot 16, concession 7 designated as road allowance. Bylaw 2021-113 to stop up, close, and convey part of the original shore road allowance in front of lot 15, concession 8, geographic township of Stanhope. Bylaw 2021-114 to stop up, close, and convey shore road allowance, part of the original shore road allowance in front of lot 16, concession 7, and part of lot 16, concession 7 designated as road allowance. Bylaw 2021-115 to stop up, close, and convey part of the original shore road allowance in front of lot 27, concession 4, geographic township of Stanhope. Bylaw 2021-116 to stop up, close, and convey part of the original shore road allowance in front of lot 26, concession 4, geographic township of Stanhope. And bylaw 2021-117 to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute a winter maintenance agreement between the corporation of the Township of Algonquin Highlands and the county of Haliburton.
All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. May I have a mover and a seconder for the confirmatory bylaw? Councillor Shortreed, Councillor Barry.
Moved by Councillor Shortreed, second by Councillor Barry. Be it resolved that bylaw 2021-119 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council held during its October 7th, 2021 regular meeting be received and read a first time, considered read a second and third time, and finally passed with the corporate seal affixed.
All in favor? It's carried. And finally, may I have a mover and a seconder for the adjournment? Councillor Shortreed, Councillor Dayu.
By Councillor Shortreed, seconded by Councillor Dayu. Be it resolved that the October 7th, 2021 regular meeting is hereby adjourned at 11:32 a.m.
All in favor? Thank you. We are adjourned. That's carried. And I hope everyone has a safe and enjoyable long weekend. We've got some rainy weather coming in, but it certainly still is a beautiful day today. So get out and enjoy it if you can. Thanks, everybody.